Hello everyone and welcome back to this system series of Star Trek Online. My name is Winters and you are most welcome. So for this episode we are going to talk about specializations, and the specialization system becomes available once you hit level 51. To access it, you need to open up your character sheet by clicking on this button or hitting U for uniform on your keyboard. You click on the Skills tab, and then you click on Specializations here and select whatever specialization you want. Currently in the game there are 8 different specializations, but there are 2 types of specializations. You have a primary specialization and a secondary specialization. Currently there are 5 primary specializations, which are Command Officer, Intelligence Officer, Miracle Worker, Pilot, and Temporal Operative. Commando, Constable, and Strategist are secondary specializations. Now, what is the difference between a primary specialization and a secondary specialization? Well, if we look here at Command Officer, we can see there are a number of tiers, and within each tier there are a number of, they're not abilities, they're buffs, some of them active, some of them passive. And basically, altogether, there are 30 points worth of specializations, or 4 tiers, I suppose is the best way to put it. There's 4 tiers in a primary specialization, and 4 tiers consist of 30 specialization points. A secondary specialization, like if we pick Commando, only has 2 tiers, or 15 points can be spent within it. You can have 1 primary specialization active at any one time, and you can have 1 secondary specialization active at any one time. So for example, I've clicked on Intelligence Officer here, and we can see that we have Activate Primary, and it's highlighted. Okay? If we wanted... no, alright, we'll come to that in a few minutes. So... yes, there are 8 specializations in the game currently. This will be expanded upon as the game progresses further down through the years, but currently there are 8 specializations. 5 primary and 3 secondary. In total, well, I suppose I should say this first. The question becomes, how do you get a specialization point to spend in any of the specializations? This bar here, see the one that's sort of the grey colour, okay? No doubt you have noticed this progress up as you earn skill and XP points. And each time it reaches the very end, it overflows and resets and goes, continues on. And each time you do that, you level up. Well, from level 51 and onwards, every time this bar fills up, overflows and starts all over again, you get a specialization point. You can see down here I currently have 51 specialization points on this character. So with the current 8 specializations that are in the game, that is 195 levels that you can potentially earn specialization points for. The current level cap in the game is level 65. So even when you get to level 65, you continue to fill this bar up, and when it caps out and overflows and resets, you get a specialization point each time, but your level doesn't increase beyond level 65 currently in the game. No doubt they will increase the level cap later on as the game progresses down through the years. So yeah, even once you have reached the max level, which is currently level 65, you continue to build up this bar until it eventually overflows and you earn a specialization point. And that means there's 195 potential levels after level 51 that you can continue to earn specialization points for. Now, to spend a specialization point in any of the specialization trees, and oh my god, I'm I'm saying the word specialization an awful lot, I just realized in this video. But anyway, your first thing would be to pick your specialization, okay? So let's say we want a particular specialization to be our primary. Just for pig iron, I'm going to pick pilot, okay? We can see I've already spent some points here in pilot. In fact, I've spent 15. But if we scroll down, we can see there are still another 15 that have to be filled out. So how do you do that? Very, very simply, just double click on the different abilities, and you will begin to spend specialization points for each one of those skills. Not abilities, skills. Simple as that. Pilot is a 100% space-based specialization tree. Okay? But not all specializations are like that. But pilot is a 100% space-based specialization tree. So there we are now. I've spent 15 points and I've actually completed the pilot specialization tree. So if I wanted to make that my secondary, all I have to do is click here. Okay? Now let's say I want a different specialization as my secondary. Let's say intelligence officer. Let's fill out intelligence officer, because as we can see here, I actually don't have it filled out yet, but we'll fill it out. We'll spend all the rest of the specialization points here now and fill out the tree, because I have the points to spare, which is pretty freaking awesome. Right. Almost done. Right, okay. So, I want this specialization set as my secondary. As it just so happens, we can see it's already selected as my secondary specialization. Now, I know that I told you that Commando, Constable, and Strategist are the only current secondary specializations in game. What I didn't tell you was that a primary specialization can be set as a primary or a secondary. The difference being, if it is activated as a primary, it will utilize all 30 skills that are in that particular specialization tree. If, however, you select it as your secondary specialization, it will only use the first 2 tiers, or basically the first 15 skills. Anything beyond that, basically in tier 3 and tier 4, you will not benefit from those abilities or skills. Sorry. Most primary specializations have space-based skills, like this one, Hide Weakness 1. When any shield facing depletes, plus 20 all damage resistance rating for 5 seconds. Hide Weakness 2, it's plus 35 damage resistance this time. Hide Weakness 3, plus 50 all damage resistance rating. We also have Automated Reinforcements. When any shield facing depletes, plus 10 shield regeneration every 1 second per 10 seconds. And then Automated Reinforcements 2, when any shield facing depleted, plus 14.3 regeneration. So they're clearly space-based skills. However, if we look over here, we have Flank Protection 1, and you can see it says it's a ground skill. Alright? So most primary specializations have both ground and space-based skills that you can learn by spending specialization points within that particular specialization. And a primary can be set as an primary or as a secondary, but you can only ever have one of each on at any one particular time. Secondary specializations obviously can only be activated as secondary specializations, because there is not 30 points available in them, so you cannot activate it as a primary at all. Now I'm going to go down to Strategist here, and I'm going to fill out this one, because this is the one that I actually want as my secondary, and this will show you what it is like to activate a secondary that we didn't have originally selected. So just bear with me here while I quickly do this. Darn thing didn't want to do it for me. Okay, so there we are. We spent all 15 points in the Strategist secondary specialization, but it is not yet active. Okay, if we click on Specializations here, we can see by this icon represents with the Roman numeral 1, that indicates that this is our primary specialization. We can see by this icon here with the Roman numeral for 2, this is currently set as our secondary specialization, which is Intelligence Officer. We are currently on Strategist, however, and it is not set as our secondary. So all we have to do is just click here and it activates it as our secondary. If we go back to Specializations, we can see the Roman numeral for 2 is now down here on Strategist, indicating that this is our current secondary active specialization. Even though we have points spent in Intelligence Officer, at the moment we are not benefiting from any of those because the specialization is not activated either as our primary or our secondary. Okay, so important to know that. Ultimately, you do want to fill up all of the specialization trees and max them out, because when you do, once you have every one of them maxed out and you can't earn any more specialization points, every time this bar fills up and overflows, you get 2,880 dilithium. For every time that bar fills up and overflows, you get dilithium for it, because you can't earn any more specialization points. So that's pretty freaking sweet right there. As you spend points in any specialization, you will see this bar begin to fill up here. Okay? Every specialization tree has some sort of bonus to it. So, for example, while the pilot specialization is active, you will gain a 10% increase to your starship's turn rate. This bonus increases by a small amount for each point spent in the specialization. You must have at least 1 point spent in this specialization to gain this bonus. Current bonus spent in pilot 30. Current bonus space plus 40% turn rate. Alright, so every time you spend a point, in this case in pilot specialization, our turn rate was going up. Okay, if we go to command officer, while the command officer specialization is active, you will gain a 5% increase to your maximum hit points and maximum hull capacity. Current points spent in command officer 0, current bonus space plus 5%, maximum hull capacity, current bonus ground 5%, maximum hit points. So the more points we spend in, let's say, command officer, those bonuses increase, and every specialization has something like that. As we can see here, for intelligence officer, we get a plus 15 defense rating. And a plus 15 dodge chance on ground. Strategist, while threatening, once every 30 seconds, bridge officer and captain hull heals reduce bridge officer recharge times by 20%. That's pretty huge. While not threatening, plus 20% shield regeneration. While not threatening, plus 20% hull regeneration. So yeah, every specialization has a little something. Now remember I said that pilot was a space-based only specialization tree. There is actually a ground-based specialization tree only, and that is commando. Commando is 100% all ground skills, every single one of them. So if you're doing, let's say, any PvE missions that are, ground-based PvEs, this would be a good one to run, commando. But it's completely up to you what you want to run. Your best bet is, believe it or not, because I can't tell you which one to run, your best bet is to go through each and every skill, okay? So look at this one, plus 1% chance, expose targets to torpedo exploits, 2% chance to expose target to torpedo exploits. Basically go through all the various skills. See which one ticks the most amount of boxes for you, your playstyle, and your build. So for example, if I wasn't running any torpedoes on my ship, Command Officer might not be the best one to go for, because there's a number of torpedo based buffs in the Command Officer specialization. So it is really up to you. You need to go through each and every skill and see which one suits you best, your playstyle and your build, both space and ground, and determine which one of these is the best one for you. Right, let's see what's next. As I said earlier, the more points you spent in in any particular specialization, this bar will eventually begin to fill up. The more points you spend in it, the more it fills up. And we can see there are like different milestones here as you spend points in it. So we can see here, 5 points unlocks Tier 2. 8 points allows you to use command kit modules. 10 points unlocks Tier 3. 10 points also unlocks specialization qualifications. What that means is when... Right, so add command specialization to bridge officers. I'm going to open up the duty officer window here. I'm going to go to R&D. If we go to officer training, we can see here that we have this recipe, which is specialization qualification intelligence. In order to make this item, these are the different things that we need here. Alright, specialization qualification allows you to train a bridge officer to become a specialist in whatever particular primary specialization. And by the way, you can only make only primary specializations can make qualifications. Okay, so why would you want to do that? If you go to bridge officer stations, if you are flying a tier 6 ship, you may have noticed that there may be an additional icon on some of the seats. Like here, we can see we have 2 intelligence seats on this ship. This is the Fleet Eclipse Intel Cruiser. Okay, and basically what these icons mean in this case is that both of these seats can utilize intelligence officer specialization abilities. Okay, and in order to do that, you need a bridge officer that is qualified in that particular specialization, in this case intelligence officer. Depending on the ship you have, as long as it's a tier 6, it will have different it will have different specialization seating. We can see here we have a Specialization Pilot. Again, this one will allow you to train a bridge officer in the use of pilot bridge officer space abilities, basically. If I click on this guy, I don't know, okay, so we clicked on the second tier, or the Lieutenant Commander ability. We can see here we have Intelligence Team 2. That is clearly an intelligence officer ability. And I can click that, and now, ta-da, he can use that ability, because that bridge officer, Devro, is right here, and we can see the icon to the bottom right of him here is Intelligence Officer. We can also see Lita is Intelligence Officer and Nimi is an Intelligence Officer. But if I wanted, I could train either of those in, let's say, Command Officer, well, they're already Intelligence Officer. I could train them in, to become Miracle Worker Specialists, Pilot Specialists, or Temporal Operative Specialists. Right. Every specialization, for every 15 points that are spent in that specialization, will unlock a Starship Trait as well for free. So every single one of these specializations, whether it's a primary or secondary, has a Starship Trait attached to it. you unlock that trait by spending, or you unlock that trait for every 15 points you spend in the specialization. If we go to traits here and we go down to Starship Traits, we can see, where is it? Here, superior predictive algorithms. That is the intelligence officer trait. We can also see here superior pedal to the metal. That is the pilot Starship trait. I'm trying to remember what the strategist one is. If I click here, unconventional tactics. Right, so we go back to traits, Starship Traits, and look for, there it is, unconventional tactics. Brace for impact, grants damage buff. So let's say we spend 15 points in command officer. We will get command frequency Starship trait. Cooldown reduced by 5 minutes for fleet support. Now, if we spend 30 points, we can see we get an improved command frequency, which is cooldown reduced by 10 minutes. So every primary specialization has a Starship trait attached to it for every 15 points spent. And if you spend 30 points in that specialization, you then get an improved version of that Starship trait. Obviously, for secondary specializations, there is no improved version because you cannot spend 30 points in a secondary specialization. But nonetheless, it still does have a Starship trait attached to it. So again, there are currently 8 specializations in the game. That's 8 free Starship traits that you can get from just filling out the various specializations. Right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, we talked about primaries, we talked about secondaries, we talked about the various types of specializations, the more points you spend, Starship traits, activating primary and secondary, only one of each can be active at any one time. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. So yeah, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks a million for watching, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And as always, please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. My name is Winters, and I will catch you next time. So until then, take care.